The rising U.S. national debt will lead to dire consequences. Debt is that dirty little four-letter word no one wants to talk about. America went from a creditor nation to a debtor nation, and for all those who say that debt doesn't matter, they are in for a rude awakening. In the beginning of 2008, the U.S. national debt was $9.2 trillion. So, in matter of 12 years, the debt has increased 152%. In nominal terms, the U.S. is hands down the most indebted nation in the world. The Fed will continue creating trillions of dollars until eventually, that currency is worthless. You don't need a Ph.D. in economics to figure this out. The only question is when the dollar will collapse, not if. There is no means of avoiding the final collapse of a boom brought about by credit expansion. The alternative is only whether the crisis should come sooner due to voluntary abandonment of further credit expansion, or later as a final and total catastrophe of the currency system involved. Debt and overhead are now being paid with more debt. Massive tax cuts for globalist corporations, printing trillions of dollars, getting market caps to rise into the trillions. 59 million people unemployed. I can't even begin to entertain what this will mean by the spring of next year. The economic fallout of millions unemployed, rent forbearance, and eviction put on hold have yet to soak in. Yes, this bubble will burst. Yes, America is not only falling but also going bankrupt soon. Imagine if the lenders to the US government all of a sudden come out and say, "Give us our money back." What do you think the US government will have to do? The government could be forced to increase taxes and fees on all sorts of things. Plus, it would have to cut a lot of programs that the government currently provides, such as Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, etc. For the average Americans, this could be devastating. They are already struggling. New taxes and cuts to essential services could really hurt their well-being. The Fed has created a monster bubble it can no longer control. The US is in an inflation market. The bubble will burst, and this time will be the end of the US empire. We are at the point now where it makes no difference how big the stimulus is. We are never going to pay it back. Might well just start cutting checks for each person citizen or not 10 million each week. 100 million next week. It does not matter anymore, this ship is going down. Welcome to Weimar America. They will never address the debt because they'll never address the structural problems, the reckless spending that have caused the annual deficit. Likewise, the Fed will never raise interest rates again or, if they do it will be a minor increase, for the same reason. When you're closing in on $30 trillion in debt, a 1% rise in interest rates amounts to $300 billion added to the deficit. The idiots in DC, and they are legion on both the blue team and the red team, have boxed the federal budget into a no-win situation. They can never raise interest rates again. Ever. The global debt is at least $280 trillion, of which the US owes $80 trillion. The global GDP is now a measly $70 trillion and falling fast. No way out. We are already over the cliff. The only question is when and how hard we hit the ground. The debt can never and will never be paid. We will ride this fiat money train until the end of the tracks, whenever that may be. All fiat always ends up worthless. That has never changed. The Treasury, Fed government, whatever don't have any debt. They've allocated all that to the American taxpayer, who will have to stand that expense even though they didn't ask for it or benefit from it mostly. The debt is criminal theft from innocent working people. There ain't no free lunch. For every dollar you conjure out of thin air makes all the others worth less. One day you wake up, and your dollar is worthless. It'll take a barrel of dollars to buy a Big Mac. It's coming. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to click the like button. And don't forget to subscribe, and please don't forget to hit the little bell button to get notifications. Thank you. The national debt will never be paid down or paid off. Never. This system of deficit spending and a horse race between GDP and the debt will continue as long as it can. Another 50 years, another 250, another 900. Rome lasted over 1,000 years, and the British Empire about 500. Pax Romana, Pax Britannia, now Pax Americana. Someday the debt will be $376 trillion, the deficit will be $8 trillion a year, and what they call GDP will be $272 trillion. A Big Mac will cost $17.99 and a gallon of gas $11.89, or some combination of numbers that seem mind-blowing now. Perpetual debt that continues unabated and unchallenged would destroy every economic model ever established. The end game approaches. Whether planned or unplanned, there will be an event soon. Probably a jubilee and reset. It won't be very controllable. It will just happen naturally, and the hyperinflation. Inflation will come when people lose confidence in the dollar and suddenly dump dollars for any hard assets they can find. This is already happening in housing. Inflation is continually suppressed through fuzzy math in order to keep the cost of living adjustments down on other government spending programs. They don't see inflation in their calculations because they purposely designed the calculations to spit out low inflation numbers. Anyone that's gone to the grocery over the last 10 years or purchased a car is well aware of actual inflation rates. Let's call quantitative easing what it is: currency debasement. Feigning the Fed's ignorance as BS. The Fed has created every recession in my lifetime. Their policies are designed to create bubbles, then pop the bubbles, so the rich can feast on Main Street at pennies on the dollar, over and over. This goes around. They're doing one better. They've created the everything bubble, so all asset classes will plunge. Now they've also forced Main Street to become stock market speculators while they're locked up at home. At or near negative interest rates are designed to discourage saving your money. And the future inflation, due to currency debasement, ensures they'll siphon the lion's share out of household savings, while retail traders will lose everything else in the markets. Final result: the masses become beholden to psychotic, technocratic overlords. Obey or else. Our Fed has violated the charter under which they were formed, so they have not abided by the rules, they just make them up as they go. Their mandate is stable prices, not 2% inflation. They self-defined the 2% in 2012, so they could continue to execute QE and keep interest rates artificially low, so we could continue to pile on more debt and live beyond our means. In a deflationary world driven by technology, automation, globalization, and other efficiency improvements driving down the cost of production and distribution, stable price is massive deflation. On top of that, if we were to use the same methodology for calculating inflation that we used in 1980, it would show inflation today to be at a 10% rate. We have simply modeled inflation away through the likes of hedonics. My computer is 10 times more potent than it was 10 years ago, so it is deemed to have dropped in price by 90%. And substitution. The price of steak and chicken double in price, but steak eaters will switch to eating chicken, and therefore the cost of their basket of goods has not gone up. The bottom line: negative real rates are flat-out theft of savings. In MMT, debt is the Federal Reserve's currency. Make everyone debt slaves to the bank. Want that car? It's $500 per month for the lease, the $700 per month for the next lease, and so on. The idea is to get the masses to never own anything and be indebted to the bankers. They are human farmers. You fatten up your cattle, then you send them down the chute. They spend their whole lives learning to trust you, you feed them, you care for them, they have no reason to suspect anything is wrong or that there is any agenda until it's lights out at the end of the chute. The fewer people have jobs, the higher these markets will go. Their plan is to own everything and everyone. And they can stay solvent far longer than you, because they have the power of the printing press. The Fed is so busy stuffing its pockets with assets that it does not care how it looks. Robbing and destroying is what the Fed is good at. Look over here at this rabbit while I take all your money out of your pocket. Sleight of hand. Distraction. That's why the Fed doesn't care about inflation. They are creating inflation on purpose. They know precisely what they are doing. It's everybody else who doesn't know what the Fed is doing. You think the Fed's officially stated purpose is the Fed's real purpose. It isn't. The Fed's real goal is to rob America blind, and that is what they are doing. They have a lot of skill in it. They do know what they are doing. It's everybody else, the victims, investors, Wall Street experts, newsletter writers, and professional commentators who do not know what the Fed is doing. The Fed is destroying our country on purpose by robbing our people blind, and there's not one man in a million who knows it. And of the people who do know, half of them don't. According to Greenspan, in his book The Age of Turbulence, the total dollar value of unregulated derivatives at the time of the 2008 meltdown was 3 times larger than the entire world's actual economy. And they started going bad. They were not government regulated, so they could grow to whatever people want to buy or sell a derivative on. They were in danger of most failing and people losing 3 times the world's economy in months. Thus the central banks acted. No real-world buyers for derivatives 3 times the world's economy could be found to avoid a central bank intervention. As the Fed borrows and skyrockets the deficit into the stratosphere, and floods the system with ever more artificially cheap money, consumers keep spending and borrowing. Zombies companies stay afloat as well. The Fed has destroyed price discovery, creative destruction, and free markets generally. All in worship of Wall Street. Meanwhile, mom and pop retire cannot make any interest on their life savings, and are forced to eat their seed corn or take their chances in the Wall Street casino with the biggest everything bubble in history. The Fed painted itself into a corner and is now trapped. Oh well, at least we had that tax cut for the ridiculously rich which did not trickle down. This cannot go on much longer, and it's going to end very badly. There is a reason Warren Buffett has $130 billion sitting in cash. The music is about to stop, find a chair. This was the Atlantis Report. Please like, share, leave me a comment, subscribe. And please take some time to subscribe to my backup channels, I do upload videos there too. You'll find the links in the description box. You will also find a PayPal link if you want to make a donation. Thank you wholeheartedly to all those of you who have already donated. Stay safe and healthy, friends.